Might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
The Film Lounge presents...
Spoiler-free movie review!
First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on!
with Chris Gooch.
I'm the dude. Buck. Do you remember me?
Your mom's name was Sarah. You used to wear newspapers in your shoes.
You're a wanted man.
I don't do that anymore.
Well, the people who think you did are coming right now. And they're not planning on taking you alive.
Everything has been leading to this. Ever since Chris Evans said to Robert Downey Jr.,
"Put on the suit. Let's go a few rounds."
It's all been building to this. After destroying a good cross-section of New York, taking out the University of Greenwich, a massive shootout over Washington DC, and dropping a European city out of the sky, it's all resulted in the Avengers being made accountable for their actions. However, when a 90-year-old virgin and a billionaire narcissist with a hard-on for shiny metal can't see eye to eye, the big question is, which side will you choose? When Captain America's new team of Avengers cause an international incident that results in a lot of collateral damage, it becomes the political straw that breaks the camel's back, and all superheroes need to become accountable to the new government initiative. But when the team can't see eye to eye about how to move forward, the team fractures, and some of the best action scenes ever committed to film ensue. However, whilst all this is happening, the Avengers may not realize that they are being manipulated from behind the scenes.
Tony, if I see a situation pointed south, I can't ignore it. Sometimes I wish I could. Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
Continuing the story and the stellar work of Captain America the Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers keep the storytelling tight and well-paced, with some nail-biting action sequences and organic humor that was noticeably absent from a lot of the marketing of the film.
We're still friends, right? Depends on how hard you hit me.
One of the big concerns that a lot of people had was that this film would not be a Captain America movie, but rather Avengers 2.5, or as Anthony Mackie once referred to it, Avengers 3.8. It's understandable, considering Joss Whedon struggled to balance so many characters in Avengers Age of Ultron, plus shoehorn in the setup for all the solo movies. Thankfully though, the Russo brothers have managed to balance all of the characters and give each one of them their own moment in the film. Most importantly, the film still focuses on Chris Evans' Star-Spangled Avenger and his relationship with lifelong friend Bucky, along with his love-hate relationship with Tony Stark. Some of the real highlights of the film is the inclusion of some of the new characters, such as Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, whose presence is energetic and exciting, plus makes you all the more eager for his standalone film. We also have the return of Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, who brings the humor and has some awesome scenes just ripped straight out of the comics and every fanboy's wet dreams.
Alright, I've run out of patience. On to roost!
Of course, the elephant spider in the room is the inclusion of Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's finally happened, and it will probably surprise many people with regards to just how much screen time Tom Holland's Spider-Man has. This is not a quick, glorified cameo. He has nearly 30 minutes of interaction with the rest of the Marvel characters, both in and out of costume. This is a version of Spider-Man that we have sorely needed for quite some time. Gone is the mopey, angst-ridden versions of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and instead we get a teenager who enjoys having his powers and acts like a kid. To see Spidey finally interact with members of the Marvel Cinematic Universe genuinely brought a tear to my eye. There's some great interactions between him and Stark, whilst his fights with other members of the Avengers is everything my nerdy inner child could have wanted.
You have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude!
Please Sony, don't screw up this next solo film. Going back to existing characters though, the Russos really know how to reach the heart of these characters, with Black Widow being given some more kick-ass scenes like she had in The Winter Soldier, to really fleshing out the newer characters such as Scarlet Witch and Vision. The most impressive feat though, is that we've not only been given the best version of Spider-Man, but the best version of Tony Stark, with Robert Downey Jr. just giving his all in this film between being justified in his actions but totally torn apart by his choices. He nails so many lines throughout the film that shows Iron Man can just be more than a quippy smartass.
This doesn't have to end in a fight, Tony.
You just started a war.
Now, as always, the villains are shortchanged, because unless your name is Loki, Marvel are not really committed to giving villains much development. However, in this case, the film really excels because the focus is on the heroes and their conflict. Instead of the team quipping whilst fighting an otherwise faceless army, we have hero pitted against hero. We know their backstories, we have an emotional connection with these characters, which makes the battles a much more emotionally invested experience.
I was wrong about you. The whole world was wrong about you.
Now, before the DC fanboys get all up in arms, it's inevitable that every review is going to compare Captain America: Civil War to Batman vs Superman. And honestly, let's face it, it's a fair comparison. They are both two films released in a short space of time that feature superheroes fighting one another instead of the villains. It's just the same way we would compare Armageddon to Deep Impact, or Dante's Peak to Volcano. It's just the thing you have to do. Now, there's 101 different ways that we could compare these two films. Fun versus grim, payoffs versus letdowns, heroics versus, well, whatever the f*** was going on in Batman vs Superman. The one thing I will choose to focus on is the fact that these characters in Civil War take the time to talk to one another before throwing punches.
Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
And this is such an important thing because instead of just pontificating,
the red capes are coming. The red capes are coming.
It paints the reasons for why these characters come to such loggerheads, and it makes us as an audience feel so much more invested in what happens in this film.
Stay down. Final warning.
I could do this all day.
Finally, when we're at the stage with Marvel films where we could justifiably say that they run the risk of being stale, the Russo brothers change up the Marvel formula. They go huge in the middle with an airport fight sequence that has been teased in all the trailers, but no amount of fanboy drooling and jabbering can truly express just how cool it is. Then in the final act, they go dark and intimate. The final act almost plays out like a horror movie, and the stakes are at their highest they've ever been, to the point where you don't know if these characters are really going to kill each other. In a cinematic world where bigger is always considered better, the Russo brothers just proved that when you just make it about the characters, you can have a truly emotional response to seeing heroes going at one another. Overall, with great pacing, genuine character interactions that justify the fights that occur throughout the film, and one of the most nail-biting hand-to-hand fight sequences between two of the biggest characters in the Marvel Universe, you get more than your money's worth when you buy your ticket for this film. Keeping the film focused on Captain America, but still introducing us to a whole host of new exciting characters, Phase 3 has never looked more exciting. Captain America: Civil War gets 4 3/4 stars out of 5. Or 4 3/4 jaws that I was just constantly picking up off the floor.
Sorry, Tony. You know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. But he's my friend. So was I.